Yo, welcome back. For anyone listening to this on audio only, there's a video version on YouTube if you prefer to experience this with my beautiful face staring out at you. I've had a bit of a struggle getting the next episode of this podcast out. This is in part due to general life circumstances and in part due to my latest obsession, which is wood carving. If you look at my YouTube channel, then you'll see plenty of evidence of this, and I've talked about it in past episodes of this podcast. And it's taking up quite a lot of my time. I can get lost in the process of taking wood and drawing out the forms within it to produce something else and something new. And I just love the sort of tactile experience of it, and the way that I can work with something in 3 dimensions, really not knowing what it is that I'm going to produce, and just see where the wood itself leads me. It's such an ephemeral experience. You never know what's going to come out of the wood, what you're going to find when you saw into it or sand it down. And I find myself getting completely absorbed for hours and hours on end, and I can't draw myself away from it. This is in part due to a little known fact of ADHD, which is hyperfocus, which either inflicts or affords ADHDers with the ability to focus on something for long periods and find it very, very difficult to tear ourselves away. This can be a help in such cases as this, or when you've got, say, a project at work or something that you need to desperately focus on. If your brain gets engaged enough in it and you trigger some hyperfocus, then you're going to be super productive. The flip side is, if whatever you're trying to do or you need to do is not particularly interesting or engaging for your brain at that point, then you're going to find it very difficult to do it. And your focus might well be drawn somewhere else, perhaps to hyper-focus on something that is far less useful or valuable and helpful, and at the expense of the stuff you need to do. So it can be a real hindrance. At the moment, I'm finding the wood carving obsession to be quite absorbing, very, very relaxing, very, very mindful. And given I have relatively few pressures on my time at the moment, it feels like a good way to spend my time. So I'm sort of letting it happen, but I tend to let my hyperfocus episodes drag on longer than they should. It's pretty typical. It's very hard to untransfix yourself once you're in one of those modes, but I have some ability to do it. I have a small amount of willpower, and if there's something I desperately need to do, I'll tear myself away and do it eventually. But it does mean that I'm sort of left with less time to focus on other things, and I knew for a while at the back of my brain I was overdue another episode of this podcast, and I started writing one fairly feverishly over the last couple of days, and took a look at it this morning with a view to sort of finishing it off, read it from top to bottom, and realized it was largely incoherent, didn't make much sense. Although it sounded great, it was largely nonsense, and there's still something in there which I'll dust off and rewrite at some point in the near future. But I was like, well, this isn't good enough. And it got me really thinking, well, why have I struggled to get this out? Why did I have to rush this? Well, because my attention is somewhere else. And it got me thinking about attention. And I've been wanting to talk about this in more detail for quite a while, because at the heart of it, attention is arguably the most valuable commodity in the world. It's more valuable than gold. It's more valuable than oil. It's simply the thing that more money and more focus has been placed on mining over the last decade or so than any other single thing. Everything that Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, Twitter / X, all of these apps exist to attain and hold your attention, and to then mine that for value in terms of advertising money or selling you stuff. And they're designed specifically to get you locked in to the experience and not wanting to go and do anything else, not wanting to go and look at another website or another app. And they'll pay vast amounts of money to do that. And then we find ourselves also in a certain political environment that is dominated by two of arguably the most able and effective attention seekers of all time, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who are dominating people's attentions on every possible medium and set their whole stall on it. These two may have other interests on the outside, but the way they got their power, the way they got their wealth was simply through being big old attention seekers and being particularly good at it. And so your attention is really, really important. So I'm talking about this in terms of your attention being important to other people, but it's also the most important thing that you yourself have. We have a finite amount of attention. We have a limited lifespan, and we spend around a third of it asleep. You can lose hours and hours and hours by sitting in a car and the world passes you by and you don't even recognize that time has passed. And it feels like you've got in a time machine and you've just lost 2 hours or something. And that part of your life was gone. You have almost no memory of it. We have this ability to sort of transcend time via the suppression of attention. But the time you do experience, the times that matter, the times that create memories, and the times that you experience things like joy or fear or any intense emotions, these are the times when your intention is front and center and placing all the emphasis on what it is you're doing. And this is all there is. So a good portion of the time you're either asleep or tuned out. The rest of the time, this is where life happens. So you might think the most valuable thing in your life is your new baby, your partner, your family, your beloved pet. But really, what it is that you're valuing there is time spent directing your attention towards those things. And that's the most valuable time you have. So when you're doom scrolling through X, finding yourself getting all worked up, but also not able to disengage, you are spending that valuable attention on something that probably isn't worth your attention. It's worth a lot to Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. It's worth way more to you, because these are the times that your memories are formed. These are the activities that inform how your nervous system should behave and that will inform your emotional reactions to things. And maybe you're passing the time playing Candy Crush or whatever the current gaming app obsession is, or maybe you're scrolling social media or watching inane videos on TikTok, and maybe this is exactly what you want to be doing. Maybe this is truly your best use of your time, and that's what you should be doing, and good on you, and keep doing it, and I hope it continues to be good for you. But I suspect for most people, actually, that if they thought about it, the time spent scrolling through social media was not the highest quality time that they spent in their day, and that maybe they wish in retrospect that they'd spent that time with their partner, with their pet, with their kids, or doing something creative, making something valuable, contributing to the world and contributing to community. Now, I don't mean this in the haughty sense, in that you have to spend all your time doing valuable things that contributes to the furtherment of the human race. But I do think people spend far more of their time and therefore their attention on things that don't even matter to them. If what matters to you is scrolling through social media, then you're using your time really well. But if what matters to you is time with your family, then you're wasting it. And what matters to me is time spent creating things and exploring the world, learning, trying new things, and also spending time with my family, also spending time within the community. This stuff matters to me. I enjoy doing it. I'd rather be doing that stuff than almost anything else. And I recognize that myself, as well as everyone else, we have responsibilities and commitments. I hope that some or most of you have, for example, a job that you at least don't hate, or maybe you're lucky enough to have one that you love, and the place where you would want to focus your attention is also the place that you are paid to focus your attention. And I can't imagine a better life to live than that. But for most of us, it's a bit of a trade-off. What is the value of your job versus the value of time with your family or on your passions? And for the most privileged among us, it's a trade-off in terms of, well, how much do you have to pay me to not spend time on those things and spend time doing something for you? It's a trade-off I think many people don't really think about, especially when you get yourself into a career trajectory that seems to eat up more and more of your time. And then suddenly you find you've got a family and other responsibilities on your hands, and it feels a lot harder a trade-off. But that trade-off still exists. Ultimately, you need what you need to stay alive, to feed yourself, your family, to clothe yourselves, and to keep a roof over your head. But if you're spending lots and lots of time on a job that pays lots and lots of money to upkeep yourself and your family's opulent lifestyle, you need to question as to whether where you really deeply want to be paying your attention is actually your job, and really the thing that you're doing your job to support is that lifestyle. Because if you really truly valued time with the people you loved, then you would trade off the lifestyle and therefore the job with time spent with them. Now, I realize this is quite condescending. Life is not that simple. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the trade-offs that we all have to make all day, every day. And I recognize there's plenty of people, perhaps the majority of people out there, that don't get to make that choice, that they have to do the job that they do because that's the one they can get, and they need to do that, and they need to spend a certain amount of time on that to be able to just simply survive. And my sympathy goes out to those people. And it's a struggle. These people don't get to make the choice as to where they put their attention. But for any of the rest of us who have a little bit more agency over our life, I think it's our responsibility to use our time how suits us, because we have the ability to do so. And this is not just a factor of the present. I'm deliberately restraining myself from going all Zen on you all right now. There's plenty of references to Zen in past episodes of this podcast, and no doubt there will be in the future. But Zen very much focuses on the now. And of course, that is the important moment in time. But what the now is, what attention really is your memory factory. Because time is fleeting, because it's constantly moving, because situations change, priorities change, the weather changes, everything changes around you, your environment, your needs. You can't stand still. You can't experience this wonderful moment for the rest of your life. There will be a time where this moment is very different. And so the things we pay attention to, or are forced to pay attention to, are the bedrock of our memory. The thing that you paid attention to that created strong emotions in you, be they negative or positive, are the things that's going to root themselves in your memory most strongly. These are the things that your brain will use to inform itself in terms of the decisions that it makes and your emotional response to your environment in the future. The moments with the most emotional resonance are the ones that will stick with us most strongly. And that seems fairly intuitively obvious. But I think a lot of people don't think about that in the moment. If you're not really present with the thing that you're doing, if you're not really focusing your attention on something that matters and that will feel like it matters to your future self, then either you're not creating memories, i.e. you won't remember much about what happened in this moment in your life, or you're creating memories that are trash. And so if you spend your whole time on X getting angry about Donald Trump or wanting to take down the next celebrity, you're going to have a strong emotional response to that. That's going to form memories that are going to inform how you remember this era in your life. And are you going to think back and see these things as perhaps traumatic? Right now, is Donald Trump actually directly impacting your life to the negative, or I guess to the positive? Well, for some people, yes, but for me, no. So why am I scrolling through, well, in my case, Blue Sky, seeing comments and articles about Donald Trump and getting annoyed and angry about those? Well, it's not really much value to me. I can see value in keeping abreast of these things, so we understand what our environment is really like. But outside of that, continued doom scrolling is of very little value, and I'm not sure my future self will be very happy with me if it felt that I'd spent a lot of time doing that. So you have to remember that this moment now is your memory factory. Your creations are distillations of a moment. They are memories made manifest. And so your creation could be a painting or a sculpture or a photo or a film or a piece of writing. And why did you make that? You made that because there is some reason, some part of your brain or your life or some necessity that you needed to do that. I think my necessity right now is the need to be calm and focused and relaxed, and to not repeat my mental health problems while I have the ability to do so. And therefore my time spent hacking into pieces of wood is valuable. And I think my future self will be pleased about it, not least because I have these objects to either remind me of that moment or that I can sell to someone else. And I'm manifesting a flavor of my present in an object that could sit on someone's mantelpiece or hang on their wall. And that's really good for me. It's good for future me. It's good for now me. And it will create good memories, not perhaps spectacular memories like that time I went to Tokyo and had the best party I've ever had with a bunch of really cool people after a really, really stressful project at work. It won't have the same resonance as that time that I was in Crete, but I couldn't enjoy myself because I was so depressed and stressed and burned out because of the state of my life. It's not going to have the same resonance of those things. But I think we can't always have exciting, extreme moments, and we don't always want that. Otherwise, we'd be psychological wrecks. What we want is a mix of highs and lows, and our median state, the state where the vast majority of our attention is occupied, to be a happy place to our future self, to be a happy place for our current self. And I think that creativity and creation and art is literally one of the best ways that you can do that. I'm not saying that it's better to spend time in front of an easel than it is caring for someone who is in distress, or, spending time with your family or your newborn baby, or even watching telly, because these moments are important to us too. Sitting down in front of the TV with my wife most evenings is a vital part of my daily routine and a vital part of me keeping my mental health and spending time with my wife. It's important to me that I do that. I don't consider that time wasted. And I do like most of the things we're watching. There's plenty of amazing TV out there at the moment. And I don't think my future self is going to be too grumpy with me about having spent my time doing that. I spent hours last night with a bunch of people framing artworks from the local school kids for an art competition that they entered. And we wanted to make it really special for them. So we acquired a bunch of cheap frames and we all got together and framed them, and we put them up gallery style in the building next door. And that is a good use of my time. I spent my time around some interesting, cool people doing something that felt really positive. I think is going to absolutely delight those kids and their parents. will that be a strong memory for me? Almost certainly not. It wasn't a particularly interesting thing to do. It was just a good thing to do, and a thing that I felt was positive. And for me, that's going to contribute to probably more like a melange of ambient memories from this moment in time that will, in general, turn out to be something quite positive and to help my future self. And I think that's the thing that we really have to think about, is that it's not that you have to be doing something positive, but by all means go and do that. It's not that you have to spend every minute trying to change the world. By all means do that if you have the facility and the desire to do that. It's more a case of, are you doing the thing right now that is really benefiting you, that is really benefiting those around you, that's achieving something, no matter how small, that is something your future self is going to look at and go, well, that was worth doing. And that's the litmus test. If you think about what the thing you're doing is at the moment, and you think, well, look, this was rubbish, but it was a means to an end, and you achieve that end, your future self is going to forgive you. If you are scrolling through X, getting angry, not doing the things you were supposed to do, not really seeing any value or benefit in that, and generally feeling all the wrong types of emotions for the wrong reasons, then that probably isn't something you should be doing. Your future self is not going to feel proud that you spent your time doing that. Your memories of that period are not going to be great. So if all you need or want to do is chill, then find ways to do that, and look at the things that you're doing in your life so that you have some level of agency or control over, and try to understand whether or not they are something that you really want to be doing and that is giving you the value in the current moment that it should be. And I'm guessing if you are listening to or watching this, that creativity forms a fair amount of your existence and that it's something you want to be doing. So you're the part of the way there with that anyway. If you can find the time to do this and it really does benefit you, then you should find whatever time you can to do it while also not sacrificing the other things that you need to do. For example, recording a podcast episode. And indeed, in recording podcast episodes, I both achieve something I quite enjoy doing. I like the fact that they're out there and they're giving my future self a souvenir of the present that I think I will consider really valuable. And I hope I manage to keep recording these, even if it's a little bit erratic. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. I could probably say quite a lot more on this subject. And really, your ability to focus your attention on creativity is something inherently positive to help improve your state of mind and your well-being in the present, which in turn will improve your state of mind and well-being in the future. And so in that way, you can see it as an investment. And if you think about attention as being the most valuable thing that you have, because it's everything, then you can consider investment of that attention on something valuable and positive as an investment in the future, something that will grow, something that will accrue and pay it forward, as it were, to your future self, and indeed will shape their outlook on everything that they're experiencing in their present. It feels a bit like time travel here, and maybe some of this stuff's a little bit abstract, but I tend to find myself thinking about all the awful things I'm doing to my future self, and it sort of helps me to try and be a bit more charitable to him. And this is probably the best way that I can do it. That's all for now. I feel like I've got a lot more to say on this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let you put your attention somewhere else. Maybe this podcast is the place where you'd most like to put all your attention. And thank you very much if you think that's the case. But I think I'm here to urge you to go and do something else and to go and use your attention in the way that makes you happy. So go and do that. Thank you for joining me again. I'll hopefully get this other episode that I started writing recorded now for next week's. I'm looking for other creatives to interview. So if you're a creative and listening to this and want to do an interview with me for this podcast, then please get in touch. In the meantime, please rate, review, share, like, whatever. help me spread the word about this podcast, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.